We'll now call the November 12 public hearing to order. Item 2.1, reading of a public hearing statement for Village of Valemount Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 806, 2019. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to the terms of the Local Government Act prior to the consideration of the Village of Valemount Zoning Bylaw number 610, 2007, Amendment Bylaw 806, 2019. At a public hearing, any person present who believes that they are affected by a matter being considered shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matter contained in the proposal. Members of the public speaking on the proposal should, at the appropriate time, commence your address to this council by clearly stating your name and area of residence, upon which you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposal. And I'll ask that any comments during this time be addressed from the podium. Everyone who deems their interests are affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. All who speak at this public hearing will restrict their remarks to the matters contained in the proposal. And it is my responsibility as chairperson of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. At the conclusion of a public hearing, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representation made at the hearing. We have now under item 2.2 a presentation by our planner, Ms. Vicente.
So the public hearing this evening is in regards to a zoning amendment in response to affordable housing issues within our community. This amendment is based on the Housing Committee's review of the Village of Valemount zoning bylaw and the recommendations they provided to support more affordable housing and development opportunities in Valemount. This bylaw proposes to increase the number of residential units permitted in commercial zones from 1 residential unit to 4 residential units, permit duplexes and secondary suites in more zones, reduce the minimum parcel areas in some residential zones, reduce the minimum floor areas of single-family dwellings, and remove the total floor area that a secondary suite may occupy within a dwelling. Referrals were sent out internally and externally, and no concerns have been submitted. Staff believes this is a great opportunity to modernize our zoning bylaw and provide better and more opportunities for affordable housing within existing homes and structures, as well as for future development. If no major issues arise from this public hearing, staff recommends giving third reading and final adoption to zoning amendment bylaw number 806, 2019.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the planner? Thank you very much. Are there any written submissions? Seeing how the Village of Valemount is the proponent, we will not be having a presentation under 2.4. Are there any public submissions this evening to form part of the minutes? Yes, please. To the podium, please, for the viewers at home that wish to partake in witnessing.
I'm Rashmi Narayan, and I mean, am I affected by this public hearing? I think all the residents of Valemount are, and I speak in that matter. I really appreciate and support this zoning amendment. It creates more housing options for both in terms of by reducing the dwelling size and the parcel size. I think it's also, as a person who's been on the housing committee and made some of these recommendations to council, I'm glad to see that being acted on as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Other submissions this evening? For a second time, are there any submissions?
Your Honor, this has to do with your water and sewage.
This isn't the time.
This isn't the time, but will there be an opportunity? Oh, there will.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
I will take a seat.
Thank you very much. This is for public hearing submissions in response to a zoning bylaw.
That's why I was checking.
So for a second time, are there any public submissions for a third time. Are there any public submissions in regards to this public hearing? Hearing none, I now adjourn this public hearing. Moving right along, we have called the regular meeting of Council November 12, 2019 to order. Item 2.1, Council, adoption of the agenda for this evening. Councillor Pearson, Councillor G. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Carries. We now have an opportunity under 3.1 for public comment. Just a preamble there, D. Comments and questions will only be regarding an item on the current agenda, and please convey them from the podium for the benefit of viewers at home. Questions and comments must be put forth, must be on topics that are not normally dealt with by village staff as a matter of routine. Comments, questions shall be addressed to the chair and given likewise. Debates with or by individual members of council are not allowed during this time. And no commitment shall be made by council in replying to a question. Matters that may require action of council shall be tabled to a future meeting. As we just had a public hearing, bylaws, temporary use permits that have been considered but have not yet received final approval shall not be raised during this time. Individuals must state their name and area of residence for identification purposes. We don't really need your address, just your area. And comments and questions will be limited to 2 minutes, notified by this timer, beginning after welcome. Are there any public comments this evening? Yes.
My name is Dee McEachran, and I live at number 7101 Elm Street in the village of Valemount. I am here on behalf of the Valemount Senior Citizens Housing Society Board, of which I am chair. Our concern today is the increase in the water, sewage, and garbage rates. For all the years that the Golden Years Lodge had water and sewer and garbage that was paid by the village until we added the third phase of the townhouses. And I'm sure that the boards of earlier days really appreciated that. But when we got our first bill for a $13,000 addition to our budget, it was painful. The bill for 2020, with a 9.5% increase in water and sewer and a 3% on garbage, will be approximately $19,154. And if we made a prepayment with an 8% discount, we would pay roughly $17,600. I understand the village is proposing a new system where our bill would go up by only 8.5%, but there would be no prepayment discount. So our bill for 2020 would be approximately $1,357 higher. We know you are setting aside monies for a new infrastructure. However, our Golden Years Lodge is not for making money. We are a society, and we try to offer really affordable housing for those seniors who are less fortunate. In fact, we offer subsidized housing for a portion of our residents, thanks to BC Housing. If we have a preference, we would take the 9.5% increase in water and sewer if we can still have the 8% prepayment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there further public comments this evening?
Your Honour, my name is Marion Farquharson. I'd like to add a couple of remarks to my predecessor.
Just your area of residence, please, Marion.
17th Avenue.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Welcome.
Valemount, thank you. I would like to sort of stress the fact that the Golden Years Lodge and Valemount houses are definitely non-profit. We are held back with renting, and the costs are going astronomically up. This utility bill sounds as if it's not very much, but in fact it might just rock the boat the wrong way. We had an increase of hydro 18% per year for the last 2 years. We had an increase in insurance of 40% this year. These are astronomical costs which we can't do without. We have to have these things in the place to make it work. So I don't know quite what I'm asking for. I think I'm asking for a special dispensation. We've only got 4 bins at Golden Years Lodge for 23 people, so we're not using a lot of utilities. If you could just look at it in the practical point of view, perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there further public comments this evening?
Agent Jamin, Valemount.
Welcome.
Thank you. In regards to the rate increase, I do see we need to look after our infrastructure. But the fact that vacant properties, they are going to be reduced by 10%, while the rest of us will have an increase in it'll reflect on the vacant properties as well. But I really feel that to reduce the rate of those who would be in the more affordable incomes, that doesn't sit right with me. And you will find your lower incomes with the rest of the population that are living in properties in this village. That the percentage of 50% should remain. They are in a position that's far more affordable than others in this town. The second is in response to Rashmi's letter for CBT in the grant, that one large grant be offered. I would seriously consider that one, especially when we're looking at our housing and the need for a sizable cash inflow to be able to proceed on that particular one. Those are my statements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other public comments this evening?
This is Rashmi Narayan again in Valemount, and I have a couple of comments.
Podium, please.
Couple of comments. One is about the utility tax increase. I'm concerned with the high increase, partly because, earlier this year
That's not you.
I know. Earlier this year in April, there was at council, we received information that the village had received 2.88 million for long-term planning and capital work. Since interest alone from this 2.88 million investment can look after some of these increases, and I think the utility tax increases are quite a lot more than the consumer price index. I'm just concerned about the amount of taxation on local residents when village receives so much money and has set it aside and is receiving interest. So that's one of my points to make about the tax increase. The other one is the work camp for pipeline workers, where village is being asked to provide give their feedback. I would like the village to let the regional district know, that the work camp contain all the workers, because if the village has to accommodate some of those pipeline workers, it is going to affect the local rental market, not only in prices, but also in availability. So I'd like council to take that into consideration when they give feedback back to the regional district. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Monique Jamin from Valemount.
Welcome.
Thank you. In regards to the utilities increase, is there a way to take into account the households who minimize the amount of water they use by purchasing, for example, a washing machine that uses very little water, or who don't have a dishwasher, or whose use of water is limited? The households who diligently recycle, who hardly ever put their garbage can at the door, or, at the road because there's nothing in there, or there's just one bag, and if it's not summertime, it can wait. And then also the households or the hotels, for example, who use a lot more of the services. So that's a question I have.
Thank you. It's been noted. Been noted. Good. Further public comment this evening? Yes.
Laura Kyle, 8th Avenue. Thank you. So my comments are also about the utility tax increase. When this came in a couple years ago, when the first increases started, I think we all sort of understood why it had to happen to save for infrastructure replacement. But I think that the residents of Valemount deserve to know why these increases are continuing, given that we have received $2.8 million this spring. That was not included in the agenda tonight, so I think that council, if they have not seen that yet, should request it from staff as far as how that figures into the equation. Why isn't that money affecting the rate increases? So that would be my main point. And also just from a perspective of being a councillor or being on council, I think it's about balancing the finances of the village with other values such as affordability. And one of the aspects of affordability is increases that go beyond inflation. And right now, landlords are limited in how much they can increase rent. We're not going to increase the rental stock if people if they're going to be losing money from rentals, for instance, because they're paying utilities that are increasing beyond what they can raise rent. So that's my other thing. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments this evening? Motion, please, to receive public comments. Councillor G, Councillor MacLean. All in favor of receipt? Carries. Item 4.1, adoption of the minutes of the previous regular council meeting, October 22, 2019. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carries. Is there anything in the reading file that council would like to pull out? Councillor Blanchette.
I'd like to pull out Rashmi Jones' letter. I'd like to thank her for all of the care and compassion she has for the community. And I agree with her letter. I'd like, it's something that council has talked about very briefly. And I've talked to Linda LaFleur about the possibility of it too. So I think it's something that we need to put more on our radar. Because we do need housing, we do have a big pot, and we've got to look at some alternatives.
How would you, I mean, housing is so broad, for example, how would you propose that the CIP be under the broad umbrella of housing?
I think that we have to look at it, probably it's going to have to do with some matching funding, right? We always need a big chunk, and here we have a big chunk.
So you're thinking construction of housing?
Yeah.
So the local government take on construction of housing?
I think we need to talk about the possibilities of what we can do when we've been given this situation, knowing what the other situations are and what our other issues and problems are.
I smell a committee of the whole.
It could.
I mean, it's very,
Yeah.
very topic specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to make a motion for staff to schedule a committee of the whole meeting?
Yes, please.
Seconder, Councillor MacLean. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor? Carries. Did you have anything else in the reading file?
No, thank you.
I too would like to go to Councillor Pearson.
Just the response from Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure. I'd like to thank Minister Trevina for her mention of the Canoe River rest stop proposal.
Yep. And it's good that they're allocating some regional staff to look at that more wholesome. Further of the reading file? A couple of things. The CBT Symposium 2020. I went to the 2017 symposium in Kimberley. It was just an awesome learning opportunity. So if, as dates get closer, they're having one in Golden this year. So they're having two in the basin, in the northern basin in Golden. I would highly recommend, if you have the opportunity, to go. And also I'd like to pull out the old growth terms of reference with Merkel and Gorley. And I do believe VCS staff had an opportunity to attend one of their presentations. So hoping to learn more from Craig and company. 9.1, Christmas office closure. There's a couple of recommendations here. Number one, that staff be directed to organize a potluck lunch, December 20, 12:30, for staff and council. And that two, the municipal office and visitor information center be closed from December 20th at 12:30, reopening January 2nd at 8:30. That's a motion in favor of the recommendation.
Both, yep.
Seconder, Councillor G. Discussion. All in favor? Carries. 9.2, Government of Canada Celebrate Canada program. Staff are asking to be directed to apply for the Government of Canada Celebrate Canada program for 2020. What's council's wish? Councillor Pearson, in favor? In favor. Councillor MacLean, second. Discussion. Best of luck. All in favor? Carries. Another request from staff for the Northern Development Initiative Trust Grant Writing Support Program. That staff be directed to apply for the NDIT Grant Writing Support Program for 2020. Councillor G, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion?
This is an ongoing grant, though, that we always apply for, correct? Yeah.
Further discussion? Yes.
There's a second.
We'll go to
Okay.
that. All in favor? Carries. The second recommendation, that staff be directed to request financial support from the Valmont Community Forest for the community grant writer for 2020. Councillor G, Councillor MacLean, discussion. All in favor? Carries. We have some applications to consider for the CBT, CIP, AAP Adjudication Committee appointments. There are a number of recommendations. What is council's wish? Councillor Blanchette.
So for recommendation 1, I'd like to recommend Meg Pratt Johnson. I know she's down here for a 2-year term, but I thought if she's new, maybe the 1 year might be good just to see how she feels, if she's enjoying it, or gives her that option to step down if she so wishes.
Very good. Seconder on that? Councillor Pearson? Discussion. Yeah, I'd support that. Just giving her kind of a outside perspective, being in another basic community, Revelstoke. I think it'd bring a lot of benefit. All in favor? Carries. Two more recommendations, but I'll leave it to council. So that's our 1 year done. So we have 3 opportunities to fill 2-year terms. Councillor Blanchette.
For the number 2, Beth Russell for her 2-year term.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor G. Discussion. All in favor? Carries. 2 more. Councillor Blanchette.
For number 3, Mr. Bob Gray for a 2-year term.
Seconder. Councillor G. Yeah, fairly robust background through Bob.
Yeah.
Further discussion or any discussion? All in favor? Carries. And the 4th and final? Councillor Blanchette.
Miss Claudia Frost for a 2-year term. Yeah. Again, she's got a quite good resume there.
Seconder. Councillor MacLean. Discussion? Yes.
Just a comment. I'd like to thank everybody for putting their name forward. This is a nice thing when people step forward to do some community service work. It's a good committee, and I would encourage everybody to just keep applying. Everybody will get a turn.
Absolutely. All in favor of the motion? Or discussion on the motion, sorry. Further discussion on the motion. All in favor of the... Carries. Thank you very much. 9.5, building inspection report. Motion please to receive. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette. Any comments on the building inspector's report?
Good work. Lots of business. It's great.
Yeah,
Nice to see.
particularly at the end of construction season.
Exactly.
Further comments? All in favor of receipt? Carries. 9.6, accounts payable. Motion please to receive. Councillor G, Councillor Pearson. Discussion. Anything pop out?
Just great work. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All in favor of receipt? Carries. 9.7, we have our third quarterly budget report. Motion please to receive. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson. Discussion. All in favor of receipt? Carries. 9.8, for the 2020 utility rates. Number of recommendations from staff, but four in particular, four things that need to be crossed off, and I'll leave it to council. Yes.
These being dealt with individually then, correct?
You can do them all as one, if council would like to roll them up in one.
If you want to roll, do you want to roll them up?
Not particularly.
Okay, well, we'll itemize them.
All right. After some serious discussion in the community, item number 1, I would move that we table that for further discussion for next year.
Seconder to table. Councillor Blanchette, discussion on the motion? Councillor, it was your motion.
I think part of it, I mean, we tie in a couple of the items is, you know, part of the thought was to make the utility bill easier for lower income people by doing the quarterly, which ties into the second one is if we, from what I understand, if we go to the quarterly, we can't offer an 8% discount. So I think that if we table this and we look at it and see if we can find a better approach going forward that can sort of work towards everybody. So that's my comment.
You had a comment? Councillor?
Just, yeah, we need to look at how we're doing this and who we're doing it for, right? You know?
So my comments on that is there's no penalties in that calendar year. So whether I pay $1 tomorrow and $80 the next day, whether we have quarterly or annual payments, penalties start after the calendar year ends.
Correct.
So, yeah, I would support that, to table it for future discussion.
Okay.
Further discussion? All in favor? It has been tabled. We have another recommendation here regarding discounts. Councillor Pearson.
For the same reasons, I would move that we tabled item 2 for further discussion next year. For the same reason that we come up with a plan that everybody can understand and possibly support. There's a lot of information out there going around that's kind of blurring the issue. So I think if we can table that and put together a package with some public output for people to understand the pluses and minuses, I think we'd be better served.
Is there a second to table? It's Councillor G. So, our discussion on the motion. Councillor Blanchette.
So the 8% discount is there in place to help those that need the help. So I'm just questioning why we would take it off and table it. Why wouldn't we leave it in place and then work on number 1 and then work on 1 and 2 together? But I mean, right now, we're gonna tell everybody that needs this discount next year, they're not gonna get it. So
I think the 8% would stay because the motion is for the discount to be eliminated. Or the motion wasn't for it to be eliminated, there was a recommendation that it be eliminated. So as it stands, the 8% would stay.
Can you ask Councillor Pearson for clarity on that?
Clarity from Councillor Pearson?
Exactly what do you mean by that motion?
Yeah, and I agree, I didn't make that clear, that we just eliminate item number 2, the discount would stay in place for the following year, pending further discussion.
Does that satisfy that? Further discussion on tabling? Yes.
So one other item of discussion on this too is in questioning staff today that I wasn't aware of either, is that anybody can put money down all year towards their utilities. So I mean, you can do it $20 a month, $50 a month towards your utilities. So that sort of balances the quarterly payments. I mean, if people become aware that they can do smaller payments, you know, you can set up online banking to do a monthly payment of $50 towards your bill, and I think that would help with affordability for a lot of people.
Agreed. Further discussion on tabling? All in favor? It's tabled. There's a third recommendation here for an increase of 8.5% for the 2020 fiscal year. Sorry, not calendar year, fiscal year, which is still a calendar year, local government. What's council's wish?
0? Well, I'll move it to get it on the floor.
You'll move the recommendation?
Wait, what am I supposed to do? But I have a question.
Sure. It has to, that question is followed after.
Okay, so we all know my memory is not perfect. Did we not decide that we were doing so many years with that increase because we had to build up surplus? And then at the end of that term, we were gonna put it back down to 3.5? Are we still within that time frame of keeping it at that 8 or 9.5?
So it's not to build a surplus, it's to build a room in the budget for asset management purposes in the future, to be able to replace those assets when that time comes along.
Yeah, the infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea was that the original request was actually 9.5%. When this report was put forward, 9.5 was reduced to 8.5 for the ability to offer to get rid of the 8% discount. It kind of balanced out in that respect. So the recommendation originally from staff was a 9.5% for, if I could refer to the Director of Finance, for how many years was that?
10.
I believe the FCS study was for 9 years, and then 3% after that.
And how far along are we right now in the 9.5 years?
This will be the 4th year.
4th year, so 5 more years of that.
Did you receive some clarity? Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Councillor MacLean?
So like some of the public question about the extra money we received, the 2.3 million, how does that relate to what we're doing today? At the beginning of the meeting, I believe Laura and maybe somebody else asked, you got more in the infrastructure grant than you anticipated. Sorry, I'm just confused.
Yeah.
So what did happen to that, and why can't we use that toward covering these costs?
Yeah, I don't know what the interest rate is on that 2.883. I know it needs to go into a reserve of some form under the rules of the grant awarding of that grant money. Would you like to clarify further?
Sure. So that funding is to be held in into a reserve. That funding was provided in order to help with future infrastructure projects, which could include something like replacing the water treatment plant down the road. However, there are a lot of infrastructure projects that are also on the books right now. And council had previously decided that those funds would be held until the capital asset study was complete and brought forward to council. But just to give you a bit of a heads up on that, we have a lift station, for example, that has to be rebuilt in one area of our town, and the potential for having to build another lift station. So unfortunately, that amount of money is not enough money to replace a water treatment plant and to do all of those other projects as well.
What's the time frame when this has to go through? Like, is this today, or can this be put off until next council meeting, or we need to decide today?
If it's not decided today, then it'll have to go to fourth reading in the January meeting, which will put off holding off the utility bills till later in the year.
And that'll muck everything up after. Okay.
We had a motion, I'm not even sure where we're at.
There has not been a motion on the floor. There's been
Much discussion.
request of clarification.
Oh, okay.
Councillor?
Having looked at the numbers and reading the reports that were given, I would move that we go ahead with the 8.5% increase for the 2020 fiscal year.
Seconder. Councillor G. Finally, discussion on a motion.
I just think, this was all kind of forecast in that original plan, and that's kind of the course that was set. And I think by keeping the other two issues, I think we can sort of keep it affordable. I understand, I pay the same tax, but we have to look at fiscally as well as what we're doing in the future, so that would be my thoughts on it.
Is the WSP study online and available for view?
If it's not, I'll make sure it is.
Thank you. Perhaps a couple paper copies in the upstairs. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carries. And finally, a fourth ask regarding garbage rates for the 2020 fiscal year. What is council's wish? First by a motion, then by discussion.
I move for the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor MacLean, seconder. Councillor G, that the garbage rates increase by 3% for the 2020 fiscal year. Discussion.
Do we have a cost on how much that 3% is, so that on the cans?
I'm sure we can
It's like,
get that figured
yeah.
out.
A couple of cents a day, or?
I can ask Director of Finance.
I believe the average for residential was just over $100, so it would be a $3 increase.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Carries. 9.9, invitation to tender. Chevrolet Silverado 1500, Public Works, staff be directed, to negotiate fees and terms for the purchase of a Chevrolet Silverado 1500 from Merton Chevrolet Cadillac Buick GMC Limited within the budgeted amount of $40,000. What is council's wish? Councillor G? Move the recommendation. Seconder. Councillor Pearson. Discussion. All in favor? Carries. Staff put out a request for quote under 9.10. It was answered, and so recommendation here that staff be directed to negotiate fees and terms of a 1-year contract for janitorial services to village buildings with Darren Heaps of Heaps Cleaning. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor G, discussion? Excuse me. All in favor? Carries. We have a proposed development variance permit under 9.11 at 880 Bevan Crescent. So the development variance permit 19-02 for Lot 2 District Lot 7355 Caribou District Plan EPP 51321, proposing to vary the Village of Valemount zoning bylaw 610/2007 section 14.4.2 accessory uses and accessory buildings. What is council's wish? Move the recommendation. Seconder, Councillor G. Discussion? Yes.
I just think it's great when a business is doing well and they want to expand. I think it's really great.
Further discussion? All in favor? Carries. 9.12, another proposed development variance, this time at 1430 7th Avenue. Staff is looking for a final approval for a development variance permit 9.03 for Lot B, District Lot 7354, Caribou District Plan BCP 37687, proposing to vary the Village of Valmont zoning bylaw 610/2007 section 6.3.8, maximum height of an accessory building. Councillor Pearson, you move the recommendation?
Yeah.
Seconder, Councillor Blanchette. Discussion on the variance? All in favor, discussion?
Just question as to how that is that implicated in our the new bylaw that was passed earlier, as far as there's our height restrictions or anything dealt with in that?
No height restrictions were dealt with.
Okay. No, that's good, thanks.
Further discussion on the height variance? All in favor? Carries. Some item for receipt under 9.13 for the temporary use permit for Trans Mountain Work Camp and the technical referral response to the original district. Staff are looking for this report to be received. Councillor G, Councillor Pearson, discussion.
So the remark about all of the workers needing to go into the camp, can that go attached to this letter, or is it apples and oranges?
It's in the letter.
Is it? Okay.
Further discussion? There is a temporary use permit, public hearing, not public hearing, community consultation coming up. The date escapes me, but I will get it to you.
Sorry, just for clarity, asking them specifically that they have to house everybody in the camp is not.
No.
But the issue of affordable housing is.
Okay. And that at that community consultation, both the proponent will be there with a lot more specifics than we've been given thus far.
Okay, that will be great.
Under the purview of the regional district.
Yeah.
Further discussion on the technical referral. All in favor of receipt? Carries. We have what could be a new council meeting schedule for 2020 under 9.14. What is council's wish? You'll move the recommendation that the 2020 council meeting schedule be approved as presented. Mm-hmm. Seconded by Councillor Pearson. Discussion?
Is this done anywhere else, or I'm just concerned about somebody missing a meeting, then it would be very lengthy between the two.
It's always a possibility.
Yeah.
But it is done.
It is done in other areas successfully.
Yep. And feds take the whole summer off.
Yeah.
Further discussion? We'll give it a go. If it doesn't work, try it again. All in favor? We have a new schedule. Under bylaws and policies, number 10.1, Village of Valemount Reserve Bylaw, number 804, 2019. Staff are looking for third reading. Councillor Blanchette, move the recommendation.
Yes.
Seconder, Councillor Pearson, discussion. All in favor of third reading? Carries. 10.2, Village of Valemount Zoning Amendment Bylaw 806, 2019. We've just had a public hearing on this, and so that we'll be looking for a third and fourth reading on Village of Valemount Zoning Bylaw 610, 2007, Amendment Bylaw number 806, 2019. Councillor.
Third and fourth readings.
Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, are there any discussion points on third and fourth?
Just thank you to staff for working with the Housing Committee's recommendations. It's really good to see.
Awesome.
I think this bylaw is going to really help in a lot of areas for our revitalization of our community and getting a lot more housing taken care of. So I think it's really good work.
Yeah, it's definitely going to reduce a lot of limitations and really increase opportunities for where we can benefit our community. Further discussion? All in favor? It's been adopted. 10.3, Village of Valemount Council Remuneration Bylaw number 811, 2019, be given third reading. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion. All in favor? Carries. Council reports. Councillor MacLean, what have you been up to?
Well, on October 24th, along with Mayor and Council, I attended the community-to-community meeting with members of the SIMP community, which we all found very informative and insightful. This meeting provided an opportunity for personal contact and a better understanding of our common community goals, issues, and chances to work together for the betterment of both communities. On October 25th, Mayor Torgerson and I had a teleconference with the executive of the Columbia River Treaty Local Government Committee to raise Valemount's specific concerns with the overall recommendations to the treaty negotiating team. On October 30th, I attended the Council's Town Hall style meeting where we were able to meet individually with citizens and hear their concerns and get their input into the issues facing Valemount today. This was an enjoyable experience and gave us a lot of information towards issues people want to see addressed. Great information, great ideas were shared that night in a format that was conducive to open communication. On November the 8th, I attended a special utilities rate presentation thanks to Laurie McNee, the Director of Finance, for making the time to do this with me.
Spoiled.
I was, yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pearson?
October 23rd, along with Mayor Torgerson and CAO Robertson, attended the ribbon cutting for the BC Hydro charging station. It was an interesting exhibition of electric vehicle and the charging system. October 24th, also attended the community session with the Simp First Nation and was very informative, and hope that it continues to work for both communities. November 1st, conference call with TransCanada Yellowhead Highway Association, discussing issues with the Highway 16, Highway 5 corridor from basically BC coast to through Manitoba and south to Kamloops. Biggest issue at that association right now is getting more communities on board along the route and how to promote the highway route. Also on November 4th, Councillor Blanchette and I had our seniors coffee session at the Golden Years Lodge and had a very active discussion on the future needs in the community as far as extended care and assisted living and requirements and needs and stuff. And I think we had 16 people out for it. It was a good session. Also on November 4th, we had the utility info session with our finance officer, Lori McNee, mayor and council, and kind of learned a little bit of the ins and outs of the utility work system. November 5th, tourism meeting, and November 11th, Remembrance Day, and thanking the community for their support. We estimated close to 200 people out, so
Wow.
that's my 2 weeks.
Wow. Councillor G?
Yes, I have it written down that it was the 24th for the community with the SIMP. I really enjoyed that. It felt like there was a door opened, which was really good. I'd like to keep that open. The 29th I had for the Valmont Cafe, and the only reason I remember is because it was my sister's birthday. I really liked the format of that, and I hope that if we do it again in the future, or when we do it again, that more people come out and have a visit and a chat. November 4th had the utility rates information from Lori, which was very informative. Nobody likes rate increases, but it's good to know why we need to have them. Yeah, and of course Remembrance Day kept me busy all weekend.
Indeed.
Yes.
Councillor Blanchette?
So the 24th, again, was the community to community, and it was a good positive meeting with hopefully some positive outcomes. Everybody came home with homework, so look forward to that. The 29th was the Valmont Cafe, and it was really nice to have our turn to listen. The format was fabulous because you didn't feel like you were under a spotlight, and I believe we are planning on doing them more often. The first was our housing meeting. We had a facilitator, Charles Scott. He's a faculty member from UNBC School of Business. He is fantastic. He gets everybody charged up and, you know, all excited and stuff. So it was a really good meeting. We had all of the stakeholders sitting at the table. Everybody put in their 10 cents worth, and it was a fantastic meeting. On the 4th, we had Councillor Pearson and I had our seniors coffee, and again, major concerns about assisted living and long-term care. These are things that we need to work on. We need to get, what we're trying to do is get some letters, written personal letters about your struggles with getting older. If you've got a neighbor that got older, a friend, a mother, a parent, anybody, drop them off at the library. I'm collecting them all. Councillor Pearson, you can drop them off with him. We've got to get the message across that just because we're small doesn't mean that we can't have.
Who are they addressed to?
They're just stories, and that we're going to collate and keep together, and then we're going to give them somewhere.
All right.
Okay. So the utility rates information session with our Director of Finance, like Councillor G said, raising our utility rates is horrible, and you sit here and everybody's looking at you and you know that it's terrible and we can't help it. We have to raise our rates so that we can make sure we keep the things that we have in our community. On the 4th, I also had the Child and Youth Mental Health meeting. And on the 5th, we had elder care, and we're planning our next senior event. There's a grant out there that we're going to be applying for, and we're going to be doing it in the summer this time. We had a really good turnout, and we want to make it even better. So if anybody has any ideas, come and talk to me. And on the 6th, I met with Linda LaFleur, our community rep for CBT, and then I went to the community grant writing workshop, which was really interesting and informative. And there's 12 people there at that, and it was quite good. And that's it.
Awesome. Sure, a couple of weeks for you.
Yeah.
Charles, he's also Community Futures as well, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
So brilliant with finances.
Yes. Fountain of information.
Awesome. On the 23rd, I attended the opening of our level 3 electric vehicle charging station. Had very fruitful discussion on the 24th with members of the Simp First Nation. On the 25th, Councillor MacLean, of course, had a conference call with the local government committee executive for the Columbia River Treaty and their executive director. On the 29th, Valmont Cafe, awesome. I really enjoyed that, actually. The 30th, I had a Kinbasket Reservoir Debris Committee conference call with BC Hydro and members from Golden. Had about 7, I think, join us from Valemount and about the same from Golden on debris management. And they're having an in-person meeting here in the spring with the timing in and around the local government committee and CBRAC, Councillor MacLean. The 4th, I had took part in the council learning of the utility fees and charges info session, their Director of Finance. Joined Councillor Pearson as he chaired the November 5th tourism meeting. Thank you for doing that. I really enjoy that committee. They've real sharp people in that room. Just too bad I couldn't vote on certain things. Had an in-person meeting with Linda LaFleur on the 6th. It was supposed to be a quick jaunt, 40 minutes, and it turned into 3 hours. Just thank her very much for taking the time to do what she does through community relations with the Columbia Basin Trust. And then I attended the Remembrance Day Ceremony at Branch 266 Legion on November the 11th, and it was really well attended. I thank organizers, volunteers, wreath layers, musicians, poets, and most importantly, our vets. So thank you for that. And then uncouncil related, volunteered with Councillor G and her junior rangers, the RCMP and other volunteers for a good day of getting firewood for those that could use it and can't get it themselves. So thank you, Councillor G. That was an awesome day, and my arms felt it. I haven't mucked firewood or any wood for 4 hours straight in a very, very long time. And then Councillor Pearson, I did follow that link for the TCYHA membership drive, and I did view it, and I thought it's a very good sales pitch. So hopefully we can regain some membership along the TCYHA.
Yep.
And that's my report. Any motion to receive? Councillor Pearson, Councillor G, any other questions of the council and their reporting?
Excuse me, I'd just like to throw out a thanks to CAO Robinson for his work on the Via Rail situation after many conference calls and stuff to get agreement in place that people have a place to shelter while waiting for the passenger train. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
That's the political will. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of receipt? Carries. We're not heading in camera this evening, so I'll just ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Pearson. Thank you very much, Council.